Bible 1, Lesson 8. The Sons of Noe. Noah had 3 sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth. Together with them he tilled the ground and planted the vine. When the vintage came, not knowing the strength of the wine, he drank too freely and, becoming drunk, lay in his tent. Ham, finding him in this condition, laughed, and, going, told his brothers what he had seen. But they, filled with reverence and moved with filial love, took a cloak, and putting it upon their shoulders, turned away their eyes, and, going backward, covered their father. When Noah awoke and learned what had taken place, he cursed Ham in his descendants, but blessed Sem and Japheth. The Tower of Babel. Soon the descendants of Noah began so to multiply that they could no longer dwell together in the same place. In their pride, before separating, they resolved to build a city and a tower that would reach to heaven. But God easily confounded them in their foolish project. On a sudden, their language was confused, and they could not understand one another. Before this, there had been but one language, but now there were many. The city and the tower were abandoned, and the people dispersed. The posterity of Sem was spread over the greater part of Asia. From him are descended the Israelites, the chosen people of God. The descendants of Ham went to Africa, while the children of Japheth passed over to Europe. The pride of Babel led to the confusion of languages, while on Pentecost, the humility of the apostles led to their union. Now let's go over to the questions to chapter 8. What is said of Noah's sons? We read that Noah had 3 sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth. We learned that with them, Noah tilled the ground and planted the vine. What happened to Noah? What happened to Noah? We learned in the lesson that when the vintage came in, or when the grapes were ripe and they had the wine made, Noah did not know the strength of the wine. He drank too freely and became drunk and lay in his tent. Ham found him there and was laughing at him, and went out and told his brothers what he had seen. What did Sem and Japheth do? We learned that Sem and Japheth were filled with reverence and with filial love, or love of a son for a father. And they took a cloak, put it upon their shoulders, turned away their eyes, and went in backward and covered up their father. What did Noah do? We learned that when Noah woke and learned what had taken place, he cursed Ham and his descendants, but he blessed Sem and Japheth. What is said of the Tower of Babel? What was said of the Tower of Babel was that when the descendants of Noah began to multiply so they could no longer dwell together in the same place, before separating in their pride, they decided to build a city with a tower that would reach up to heaven. But God easily confounded them in this project. What did God do? What did God do? We learned that God confounded them in this project and came down and stopped their building. What was confused? On a sudden, the people's language was confused, and they could no longer understand one another. They could no longer work together and communicate with each other to build the tower. Before this, there had been but one language, but now there were many. Where did the people go? When they stopped building the tower, the people were dispersed, and the building of the tower and the city were abandoned. The descendants of Sem were spread over the greater part of Asia. The descendants of Ham went to Africa, and the children of Japheth went into Europe. Okay, where did the descendants of Sem go? We learned the descendants of Sem went into Asia. Who are descended from the people of Sem? We learned that from the people of Sem are descended the Israelites, the chosen people of God. Who are descended from Ham? We learned that from the descendants of Ham come the Africans. We learned who was descended from Japheth. We learned that Japheth passed into Europe, and the Europeans are descendants of Japheth. What is said of Babel and Pentecost? We learned that the pride of Babel led to the confusion of languages. And we learned that on Pentecost, the humility of the apostles led to the reunion of the languages. That's the end of chapter 8. Now, at the end of chapter 8, we're going to read about the ends of the first age. We have completed the ends of the first age of human history. Now let's go over this part about the names and ages of the first 10 patriarchs from Adam to Noah. So we read that Adam was not born, he was created. He died around 930, and he was about 930 years old. Seth was born around 130, and he died in 1042. He lived to be about 912 years. Enos was born in 235 and lived until 1140. He lived about 905 years. Next comes Canaan. He was born in 325. He died in 1235, and he lived to be 910. Next comes Malaleel. He was born in 395, died in 1290, and had an age of 895 years. Next comes Jared, who was born in 460. He died around 1422, and his age was 962 years. Next, we read about Enoch. Enoch was born in 622, and he died 987, but he didn't actually die. You will learn that Enoch was actually taken up to heaven by God, and his age on earth was 365 years. Next is Methuselah. He's the oldest recorded person that we know of in the Bible. He was born in 687 and died in 1656, and he lived to be 969 years old. Next comes Lamech. This is Noah's father. He was born in 874 and died in 1651 and lived to be 777 years old. Next we have Noah, who was born in 1057 and died in 2006, and he lived to be 950 years old. By this it will be seen to what an advanced age the early patriarchs lived. Adam lived 930 years. Lamech, Noah's father, was born in the year 874. So Noah's father lived 56 years with Adam. And Noah himself lived 128 years with Thar, Abraham's father. Thus, from Abraham to Adam, there were but 3 persons. And from Abraham to Moses, it was very easy to hand down traditions. Hence, there was no difficulty in Moses writing about the creation and the early history of the world as we find it related in the Bible. Well, that's the end of Catholic Bible 1, Lesson 8. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. May God bless your studies.